Guess who's back? Back again. Hey, we're back. Let's start the show.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast.
Ray's Rewind with Bell, Bushman, and Drew.
Jansen. That is into center field. Here comes Kiermaier. Phillips has tied the game. Arose Arena coming around. Throw home. Now he stumbles. But the ball gets away. Tampa Bay wins it. Brett Phillips, game 4 hero.
The sickest Tampa Bay Rays podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Welcome in, everybody. It's been a while since we've seen you. It's the Rays Rewind podcast, the sickest Tampa Bay Rays podcast on the Sick Media Network. I am the great L. Bushman, and as usual is my co-host, Drew. It's been so long since we've seen your faces. Make sure to go to our YouTube page at the Sick Podcast, Rays Rewind, and hit that subscribe and notification bell when new episodes drop. Probably more frequently. I mean, we've had live stuff happens, and the team is right where they were at the last time we talked about.
Yeah, I was gonna say nothing's changed.
Nothing has,
we're right around 500,
which is funny to me, Drew. And I know we've got a few things to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
All the trades they made, and everybody thought, oh, we're fire sale. I wouldn't even call it a fire sale. Salary dump. Let's call it what it is. But they're pretty much where they were at pre-trade deadline, folks. So there really hasn't been much of a decline or an increase at all because they're just right where they're at when they had, Randy and Isak and everybody else before they traded him away. So, but I think what Drew and I really like to touch upon is how much of an impact Junior has made since he's been called up, and too little too late. He should have been up at the trade deadline instead of after the trade deadline. But I think
had to work on that defense.
I guess so. That defense was so sketchy coming up. Look, I will be the first to admit it. I haven't been the most attentive fan the past few weeks. I've been focused on football, college and pro, and I've been focused on fantasy football. But I will tell you this. I have been paying attention to the highlights of the Rays, and what I've seen so far is Junior should have been up a while ago. He has adjusted so well to major league pitching that it's all Drew, you're probably with me on this. It's like, hey, it's the what ifs now. Like, what if he was up a month ago? What if he was up sooner than that? How much of an impact he could have made with this team where they could be even closer to that third wild spot, because look, 6 games out with a few weeks left in the season it's hard to gain ground on that unless you're, as Kevin Cash had said the other day on WDA, we have to get hotter than hot. Teams got to get hotter than hot. Realistically, they're still kind of in it because the teams above them are maybe a game or two above them, which is kind of crazy and kind of funny. Boston's not doing too well right now. They've lost 5 in a row. They're back at 500. The Rays are only a game and a half behind them. So in a way, they could still make it if they get hotter than hot. I doubt that's going to happen, but you never know. But baseball's a crazy thing, especially in the last month of the season. Teams could get super red hot and go on a run and make a run for that last spot, or, they could play spoiler. But I think it's going to be interesting to me to see them the last few weeks to see how this team plays. And they've been playing the same way they've been playing, but it's nice to see the guys that we've been wanting to see been called up.
Yep.
Don't you agree?
Yeah. I mean, that's been, I forget which series it was back when we last talked. If I look at
I don't even remember now.
I think it was the Houston series when they got swept by Houston.
I think it was that one.
Or it might have been maybe the beginning of the Oakland series. They had just come off the sweep of Arizona, but I think that whole homestand against Houston where they got swept, I kind of at that point was like, all right,
or
Yeah,
done.
junior's coming up. Not that I finally like resigned myself to being like, all right, they're not making the playoffs, but because for so long I didn't necessarily think they would, but I was still holding out hope, and that was kind of giving me my, making it feel like these games were really, really important. And to your point, I think it's still an outside chance. I think they're 6.5 games back. I mean, they're like as you mentioned, like a game and a half from being like the first team out of the playoffs, which is crazy.
Right.
Just goes to show you how the league's kind of worked itself to where the playoff teams have separated themselves compared to a lot of average teams in the league, in the American League at least. So yeah, I mean, I would say for a while now, I think even going, I would certainly when they returned from the West Coast trip, it's kind of like, all right, what's the incentive to watch? And I still enjoy watching the team and individual players, but Junior, I mean, he's the only guy I'm excited about watching at the plate, and he's the biggest. And I don't want to say the only reason, because I still want to. Who knows? They go on a huge run or whatever, and I want to be able to witness that and watch that. But like, I
Drew,
want.
I might break my rule about not buying a jersey with somebody else's name on
Oh yeah,
it. That he's been so electric on the field, is especially
yeah.
with his bat. It's like, man, this kid, please don't have some kind of shady past. Please don't have anything
Please
that's
just don't
gonna
do anything dumb.
please don't do anything stupid in the offseason that's gonna jeopardize
Oh my
your major
gosh.
league career. Like if you're friends with
Well,
Wander Franco, don't be friends with him anymore. If you're
I
friends with him on Instagram, don't be Instagram friends with him anymore.
I did buy a Rays jersey for the first time a couple years ago. Splurged on the throwback Devil Rays black that you can get at the team store. Got it customized with the name on it. And unfortunately, and I got the guy that signed the 12-year deal, so I was like, I'm safe. This is easy money. And yeah, now I can't wear it out in public, so that's great.
So
But yeah,
look at the standings right now.
yeah,
Look at this. I mean, we're separated by, like, for the Red Sox and the Tigers and
yep.
even the Mariners, it's like a
We're
game and a half
literally a game and a half from being like on the door of the wild card.
on the
And I
bubble.
realize
Yeah.
they'd still be 5 games out, so it's still but like just how much the teams in front of them. And that's the frustrating thing. Looking at this, we know the Rays haven't been playing well, right? They've been so up and down, mostly down,
Mm-hmm.
more so down. To know that they're like they're now only a game and a half from these other teams frustrates me even more, because it's like if they just go in and play, 3 or 4 games above 500 over the last couple weeks, I mean, you're talking like a huge difference in what these standings look like. And they've just kind of squandered. I mean, granted, they're playing good teams, so it's not that like I've expected them to go in and make that kind of run. It's just the opportunity has been there at times this year for them to actually do something meaningful in the playoff race, and they just haven't
If they go and
done it.
win, like
They're
if
on a
they just
brutal
go,
road trip, though.
I
Oh
know I'm
my
looking at
gosh,
it right now.
so
Like
bad.
they at Baltimore, at Philly, at Cleveland, and then like those series are going to be brutal. I mean, and then you're in the middle
Yeah,
of September where you face, AL
you
East
got 4
opponents.
series left. You got what, 12 games?
Yeah.
So I mean, at that point, if you're still 6 or 7 games out, I mean, you're basically having to have the team in front of you that's in the playoff spot go winless.
I'm being
Um,
realistic here. They're not going to make it. I mean,
No.
we can all just put that stamp as, they're not going to make it. We're going to look towards 2025, which I have high hopes on.
Mhm.
I mean, looking at the pitching rotation that we have, and then the offensive young guys that are coming up, and then hopefully the Rays will do some kind of spending in the offseason to maybe bring in a few pieces as well. Maybe a catcher, maybe a couple of big hitters to plug in that lineup. It's all these hope things that we can maybe look forward to the 2025. The one question mark I'm concerned about, and I've been actually kind of following this the past few starts he's had, is Taj Bradley. What's up with him?
Well, I mean,
Do you think it's season burnout? Is
Yeah,
he just
that's
running
where
out
I'm
of
at.
gas? Do you think it's that, or is it could be a deeper issue where he could have some sort of
No, I really don't think it's that. I mean, again, I'm not coming at this from any sort of expert analysis of pitchers. I don't have a pitching background. I certainly watch a lot of pitching as a baseball fan, but so my opinion on this is purely just what makes the most sense to me. I don't know if it's really
Speculation.
but this is just my opinion.
Mm.
I think I personally think it's got to be innings and burnout. I mean, you look at the starts he had in the middle of the summer from I think it was the end of June through or mid June through the end of July. It was like 8 starts in a row, 8 or 9 starts where he won the pitcher of the month in July, and he was dominant. I don't think you do that over that long period of time if it's a fluke, right? Like, so I don't think that at this point, like, I don't think you look at it and say, "Oh, that was just a flash in the pan. This is who he really is." I
Mhm.
think I don't know if he's really that dominant of a pitcher, but I don't think you look at what he's doing now and be like, "Oh, this is who he actually is." What we saw in the summer was just
Here's
lightning in a bottle. So I really think it's
the burnout.
the burnout. I mean, he's already 12 innings over his innings from last year, and I will say though, to his credit, today, he got tagged for the 3-run homer in the second, and but he bounced back. I mean, going 7 innings, 10 strikeouts. Um, I, I think that's really impressive. Like how he responded to that, especially after he could have easily been. The Twins are a good power hitting team. He could have easily gotten down, given how the last several outings have gone. When he gave up that early home run, it's crappy environment in the trap on the Trop today. Hardly anybody there. No, like it easily could have spiraled for him, and he dug in. I know he gave the other homer in the third, but like to come in and hold the team to 4, give your team a chance to win, rack up the strikeouts, go 7 deep. That's actually really, I think that's really impressive, considering like the context of what he's been going through. So I'm not
Ye-
worried. I'm not worried about him. I do think we were starting to have conversations in the summer of him like, okay, is he the next ace? Would he start opening day for the Rays?
Yeah, we had
And
a title, The Rise of Taj.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
don't. I was thinking. I think if everything's good with Shane, going from rehab and spring training, everything, and he's good full go at the beginning of the year. I still think he's the guy. I don't
I'm
think
glad that
Taj.
you brought that up because I'm looking at the rotation next year, and since there's a lot of guys coming back, and it's almost like you're gonna have a logjam of what arms to put in that rotation. I mean, you could go with a
Yeah.
5-man, you could go with a 4-man, you can go with a 6-man. What if the Rays got creative and left left Drew in the bullpen to be that long reliever,
Mhm.
which he's been very good at. Maybe bump him to closer, and then put Taj in the bullpen, be your another long reliever, and be like a setup guy. Because you still have a lot of arms left in that rotation where
Yeah.
you could flip flop those arms. Obviously, you could probably make a trade or two because there's going to be
Mhm.
teams looking for arms. But with the amount of arms that are back, and then you've got the addition of McClanahan coming in next year, they could get super creative with how they position their bullpen. I like Uceta. Uceta's been great.
Oh, I think the bullpen's going to be.
Yeah, the
I
bullpen's
think
going to
it's
be
gonna be
rock solid
solid
next year.
next year. Yeah.
But you can get even more rock solid with like having another starting guy in there that said, you know what, maybe we don't want to burn him out too much. Maybe we
Mhm.
could try him out in the bullpen. Get like, hey, Drew's been doing so well. We'll put Raz as our closer, and then we can get creative with Uceta. We can get creative and put Taj in there for a little bit. Um,
Yeah.
I just like what's going to go on
They,
for next year.
yeah, they got a lot of options. I mean,
Yeah.
um, I think if you're going to do anything to the rotation where you move guys to the bullpen, I think it's either. I think the most likely candidates would be Drew Rasmussen, just because he's already there in the bullpen.
And you can't forget about Pete too. So I mean,
Yeah, Pete. Yeah. So, you keep. I think it's either you keep Rasmussen in the bullpen. If you do want to move somebody from rotation to the bullpen, it would either be, I think, Drew, given that he's already there. Although they've said the plan is to bring him back as a starter. Who knows? I mean, it could be where, hey, this experience that they've had with him in the bullpen has gone so well because he's been so good, and he actually really likes it. And feels more comfortable maybe about that for his career longer term. That this is what they end up wanting to do instead of having bring him back as a starter. That's very possible. I also think Zach Littell, if he's still around, if they don't trade him,
Yep. I was
then
just about to mention him too. Like,
yeah,
hey, you
given that
could flip flop.
he was in
Yeah.
the bullpen, already. Um, so I don't know. I mean, they're again though. I feel like there's been so many years where they've had so much great pitching, and then they have all these injuries.
Yep.
So I almost feel like they would almost be cautious to, oh, we have 6 or 7 great pitchers. Let's trade or just trim the fat and get us down to our 5 best, what we think is our 5 best, and get rid of some of that depth that you need throughout the season when inevitably pitching injuries are,
See, I don't think I think they're smart enough. The front office is going to be like, we're going to covet our pitchers
right.
going into next year. If somebody makes us an offer that we can't refuse when it comes to one of our guys in the rotation, then either entertain it or pull the trigger on it. Especially if you're getting a good return offensive wise, you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So they can entertain those questions or those trades that come in during especially during the winter meetings, which are going to be coming up in a couple months. Where, hey, we like this guy's arm, we're going to maybe throw you a bat that's going to help you out because the Rays definitely need it on the offensive side.
Yeah. So I mean, they definitely have plenty of arms. I'm excited to see what the rotation. I mean, you mentioned Uceta and Manny Rodriguez is there. I mean, I don't know the contract. I mean, I know they signed Uceta and I believe Manny both as minor league free agents. So I would assume we have team control for quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, having those 2 guys back, you have, Clevenger if they decide to. I think they move on from Colin Poche.
Please God, I hope so. Please God.
He's one of those. I was talking about this with a buddy of mine. I never feel good about him coming in. And he's one of the guys at the top of the list for me that if he blows the game, I feel the most frustrated about.
Because
but
he's a
it's
guy you shouldn't have put in to begin with.
He'll come in and they'll show a stat that he's given up 1 hit in his last, 8 appearance, 8.2 innings. And you're like, what? He's been that dominant. This whole time, I just feel like he's always been teetering on the edge of blowing a game or blowing actually blowing the game. But his salary goes up. I just think that he's kind of redundant at this point. Which I believe I heard on another podcast that Colin Poche, I believe, is the Rays player that has made the most appearances under Kevin Cash. So it'll be a tough breakup, but I think it'll happen. So you got Clevenger, you got Mason Montgomery came up today. I mean, he's been dominant since moving to the bullpen. He's a lefty reliever. He will probably factor in sometime next year. You have who was I just talking about? I was talking about somebody pre-show. But you got P. I mean, there's so many great options in the bullpen. The pitching is going to be awesome next year. So it's just on the front office to make sure the lineup is. I mean, they don't even have to be great. They just have to be average. That's the thing is this team has always just needed an average offense to be a playoff team with the pitching and the defense. And it's when they're this bad, it's this difficult for them to mount any sort of playoff run.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, going back to our original point about Junior, he's been honestly, I was kind of worried that he would take a longer time to adjust.
He has
we've seen
so
we've seen, other top prospects kind of take a lot of time to adjust. Jackson Holiday obviously being one. He's still not. I know a lot was made about him. I mean, he's certainly doing better than he did in his first stint earlier this year, but his average, I think, is still in the in 100s. And I don't know. I mean, Jackson Churio came on now really strong. I was just worried given his kind of game, Junior's game, more power, maybe a little more swing and miss, that it would just be a little bit more of an adjustment. But I think he's adjusted really well. I mean, I think he's doing a great job of taking what's given to him. He's not trying to crush the ball every time. He's hitting, today he had a great single opposite field for 2 runs. He's taking his walks. He's taking some really good pitches for balls. He's shown some really good play discipline, some great vision.
The power off the bat too is, to me, the most impressive thing. The power off the bat.
And I was pumped. I mean, watching him do what he did in LA was really neat. And I get really excited when our young guys like that perform on a bigger stage, against bigger market teams like the Dodgers, or when at the after the All-Star break, Taj went into Yankee Stadium and was dominant. and I was like, finally, this is what's going to help put him on the map because he did it against the Yankees in Yankee Stadium. So for Junior to go out and do what he did against the Dodgers, I think he dang near had a third home run that in that third game. It just hit right off the top of the wall. Like to have the clutch home run in the ninth, in the game they won. Like,
Drew, imagine a full year with him
yeah,
next
I
year.
mean, he's going to be good.
30 home runs.
And I don't know. I mean, what he's got 3 home runs so far, and he's been up for 3 weeks. You can only think that those numbers will get better, and as he settles in more. But I've just been super impressed. I mean, his fielding's been great. The whole time, I've been doing the what if game of if he came up. I thought there was a moment earlier in the year when they did the City Connect jerseys, the debut. There was a moment I was thinking that it could be possible he would be coming up. Then because he was hitting his stride in AAA, and I was thinking it could be then. And so I've been thinking back, like if he had been up for that long amount of time, that period of time, having him in the lineup with a Randy and Isak and just kind of the team at full health earlier, I'd like to think that it would have made a difference. I don't know if it means they're a playoff team, but I don't know. It just seems like it
Than
could have
they
been
are
something.
now.
It certainly they would be in a better position. I mean, he could have been a valuable part of this team earlier in the season. I don't care what Eric Neander or what anyone else says that they had him down there working on and stuff like. And I get he had injuries and that slowed things down, I'm sure.
Yeah,
But
but Drew, that to me is, I wouldn't say it's a cop out.
right.
It's just, but to me, it's more like you're trying to make excuses of why they wouldn't bring him up, and like what we've seen now after a few weeks of him being I think it's almost a month of him being in the majors. It's like why was there concern where the product now that you have on the field with him on there is it's almost exceeded expectations because from what they were saying before, oh, we don't want to bring him up because if his fielding is an issue, we want him to get adjusted. It's like, okay, well now he's up. What were the issues? What were the real issues why you wouldn't want to bring him up because of what? Because look at the impact he's making now. You know what I mean? And that to me is, look, we're not executives on a baseball team, but when it comes to the fans, and you're saying this to us, saying we have some concerns about his fielding, and we want him to get adjusted to major league, and then, we don't want to bring him up to. It's like, are you sure? Are you really sure? Because imagine if he had. Let's go back to these what if scenarios. It's like,
Right.
what if you had him pre-trade deadline? What if you had him in that lineup? You could be closer to that third wild card spot instead of being pretty much mathematically out of it, unless an act of God happens and you go on a spectacular run where you win out, you win the next how many series there are, you win out those series. You know what I mean?
Right.
And to me, it's like if the plan all along by the time the trade deadline happened, where they already knew that they were going to wave the white flag. I can see that. But if they were really going to try and make a run, just bring them up anyways, man. It wouldn't have hurt. It wouldn't have hurt because we could be talking about something totally different now than like, hey, we're looking towards 2025 instead of, hey, the Rays are on the bubble. They could make a run for this because they did this pre-trade deadline by bringing him up because he's made such an impact on the lineups.
Right. Yeah. Two things about Junior too that have been really impressive. The fielding, I think, we were just told, for Rays fans, I would be, paying attention to what the front office was saying in interviews and, what you're reading. It was his fielding, right? They want him to play third base every day, and it's just not quite where they want it to be. I'm not saying they're liars because obviously they are saying that for a reason, but at the same time, from what we've seen in the majors, I mean, he's had a couple plays where you're like, that throw wasn't great, air here, air there, whatever. He's also 21, but he's made some great plays at the hot corner, whether it's coming in on a ball, barehanding, quick throws, dives. I mean, I've been really impressed. He goes over and plays first base. This was a few weeks ago, but when Yandy got hurt early in the game and got taken out for something, I think got hit on the forearm, right? And he goes over and plays first base. He's like all about it. He's willing to do whatever. And he does great. Like, and he's a manageable first baseman. I mean, I've been nothing but impressed with his fielding. And then I would say the other thing too, and something that with players that I really care a lot about and their success and certainly focus on them a lot more, guys like Wander. I did this with Will Myers back in the day because he was my favorite player when he was on the
He was
team.
supposed to be that guy.
I know
He was supposed to be that guy.
he was so great for a small period of time. That was like, oh my gosh.
I was so hyped for him coming up, and then
I know, me too.
he was up, and then injuries, and then he was just traded away.
Yeah, but is how they're interacting with the team. And Wander was good early on, and then I think you kind of saw obviously some things. I don't know, like we only know what we're told, right? He's obviously not a great teammate, supposedly, all these things. But what I love is Junior. I mean, he's bringing the energy.
He's embracing it.
Yeah, he's bringing
embracing it. Yeah,
this team needing a leader emotionally in the clubhouse. Being that guy. Jose Siri does a decent job of it, but Jose Siri is not a good enough player, and he's inconsistent. Right? He's been benched a couple times for effort. Like, to see Junior be the guy that's him and Christopher Morel, two new guys essentially coming up, being the getting hype on every other person's home run, every good hit. Like, they're out of the dugout celebrating. They're the first ones there to high five. They're doing the huddle, jumping around in the dugout after a home run with the other players. Junior gets on base the other day. He's hyping the crowd up. Like, just the energy that he's bringing has been really, really cool to see, and something that this team has needed. Because
that's why
since Willie and
yeah, and I think Kevin, too with him embracing this role is, I think he knows like, hey, I'm pretty much going to be the future of, like, the face of this franchise. Yeah, I think he understands that. Like, hey, I'm going to be that guy. Why not start now about being that guy when I just got up here? Like, why don't I just start embracing that and start doing that way? When it comes next year, when I have a full year in the majors, this is going to become my team. Junior, just to finish off about Junior Caminero, he's, I think, been super impressive for the Rays. Obviously, he's going to be, it didn't take him any time to move up to the, second, third in the order. I think you're looking at the next big franchise player for the Rays. And, looking ahead, he's the first guy of this kind of really young core that they're building around. You can see that they're really prioritizing in the future, right? You have Junior, it's really all infield guys, right? You got Junior at third, you have Carson Williams at short, Xavier Isaac. You have guys like Braden Taylor, who's can play short, can play third, can play second. Chandler Simpson and then center. There are so many exciting young guys, and then several of the guys that they got, at the trade deadline, Aiden Smith, to name one. Junior's the first one of that group that's coming up, and so I'm really excited to see what he does at the next month or so, and then kind of what he does to firmly establish himself, hopefully as one of the next big young stars in the league. So that's going to wrap it up. We are looking at getting back on a recording session here, probably at the end of the weekend or early next week. We're going to be a little bit more frequent, obviously, than what we've been recently. As Evan mentioned, we just had some life stuff going on. I moved a few different things, so we're took some time off, but we're happy to be back and to wrap up this last month of the season. And we appreciate you guys listening and watching. So make sure you guys subscribe and like the video. That always is helpful for us as we try to grow this channel. So I appreciate you guys, and we will see you next week. Go Rays, and we'll talk to you then.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Rays Rewind with Bushman and Drew on YouTube, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.